you know what this is. Mind you, if you read the description and the title, then you've probably got a pretty good idea. This is my DIY hot knife. When I built my carport, which is just out there, I had to put some insulation in it, or wanted to put some insulation through it. I knocked an old shed down and I reused a lot of the parts. So the inside of my little workshop over there has got an outside wall, just to be quirky. But I used the old insulation, which was like polystyrene slabs, but obviously it was different size. So I needed to chop it down. So I made this just long enough to go over centre, so I could pretty much whip a big sheet down to any size I wanted. This is basically a hot knife for cutting polystyrene. It's currently not working, but I thought I'd go over with you how I made it and try and get it fixed, basically. I made it out of oak, because obviously all the best hot wire cutters are made of oak, and it's literally scrap. There's two bits of, these come off, what were these off of? These are off a skirting board, if I remember rightly. Just a couple of scrap bits of oak, a couple of blocks in the middle. I bought this bit. This is just a AA battery holder. It takes 3 AA batteries and it's got a switch built in, and it's literally just a wire comes out of there. 2 scrap bits of cable, some insulating tape, and then at the business end, if you can just see that, that's proper heater element wire for like electric heaters, things like that. I just bought a reel of it off of Amazon. And then this is some copper out of some 2.5mm twin and earth, basically twisted together, banged a couple of holes, or drilled a couple of holes in, knocked them in, and then the cable that comes from the battery is then soldered onto the end. So you've got the positive and the negative, and then you run the wire from one post to the other, and you can just twist it, because obviously this won't last forever, so it's a serviceable item, so it comes in a big long wheel, there's plenty of it, and then you can just replace it as necessary if it gets caught or broken, because it's quite thin, although it's so far been quite strong. And that's like the gist of it, really, just a frame. And I made this deep enough for the job I was using. It was deep enough to go just over halfway, so that I could cut halfway or less to make whatever size I wanted. And if you block, or if you want to do a lot of same cuts, you can just put a block in here, or you can clamp. So I was using bits of wood clamped to here with a couple of these kind of spring clamps. So you just clamp something on there, block of wood, and then you can use that as a guide, and you can do lots of repeatable cuts without having to keep remeasuring it. So when I was doing the carport, it worked quite well, so that was good. I've got another little job for it, but it's not working. The batteries are good, but when you turn it on, it doesn't take long to heat up. Just a little switch there. If I turn that on, it won't cut butter at the moment. So we're going to pull this apart, fix it, and then I'll show you how it works. So to take this off, I put cables. This is actually got a sticky pad on it, and it's stuck to this pad, but I put them on it because I kept knocking this off, because it only slides a little bit and it comes off, see, like that. So that's it on, locked in place allegedly, but to take it off you literally have to move it a tiny bit, and there you go. So I kept knocking it off, so that's what the cable ties are for. And inside there's a switch under here and 3 batteries, so it should be fairly straightforward. So I'm going to pop this cover off, get the switch out, because I don't think the switch is working. So I've got this part, pulled the switch out. It's a 3-pin or 3-terminal switch. So this is in the off position. It'll join these two together, and in the on position it'll close this circuit, or open this circuit rather, and then close these two together. So what we should be able to do is, if we test our meter, and you can hear that. If I join these right and two together, which is our off position, it should complete the circuit. And then if I turn the switch on, it should kill the circuit. So that side's working. So worst case scenario, we could perhaps rewire this, but I think what we're going to find, see, that's dead, that's in the on position, but when it was in situ, if I wiggle this switch a bit, you might see the numbers go up. Ignore that, that's me touching the wrong terminal. Try and give it a wiggle. There, see, you've got a little bit of a reading like there. Now it's on. That's with me forcing the switch that way. So, in fact, I've bent that. So I think the terminals need cleaning in there. So I'm going to pull it apart and see how it ticks. We're either going to kill it or cure it. Depending on how brittle these are, I might be able to straighten them out a little bit. Just enough to get our, or get this back cover off. That one would be easier just to desolder this, but I'm going to try and do it without, just because why not? But I may regret that decision. Oh, here we go. And there's, so that's the inside of the switch. And then you see the bit that fell out. That'll be the bit that moves between terminals to either complete the circuit or open the circuit. I'm guessing, not that I can see with my eyes, there's a bit of wear or something on there, so let's delve in a bit deeper. Oh, here we go, look, see that's got hot. Try and get you a bit closer. Got some light, there we go. See the burn on that? It's probably because this is carrying a little bit more current than perhaps it was designed to. But we'll clean that up, carry on. It's probably arcing as well, but there we go. Right, so just clean that up. Now the trick is, I've got to try and get this fiddly little bit in, back into the switch, and that all pressed together. With a moody thumb, so this is going to be a pain in the... So that sits in there, that's a spring, it's all sprung loaded just to make it even easier. But it needs to be, otherwise it wouldn't work. Ideally, a little pair of tweezers, but I haven't got any to hand. So I'm just going to flop that in there like that. Make sure that's in, and then that just glides over the top of them 3 pins. So it's always touching the middle one. It's either joining the middle one to the left one or the right one. Now what we've got to do is get that in. I'm going to try and do this so you can see it, but smart move would be to swap that round. I'll try and get that in like that. Right, now if I can hold that in place. I need to fold these tabs in and give the whole thing a bit of a squeeze. So I'm going to pop that in there like that. Fold that over. I've got no idea if you can see this, but I kind of need to see it a bit more than you. This is where having a working thumb would be really, really useful about now. I've got that one over, so there's three points of contact now, which is handy. I'll squish this to pieces. Got it. Right, now it's kind of flared out, so I need to rectify that if I can. A pair of pliers or something. I'll try bending this out of the way. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of wider at the top than it really needs to be. And it's all very precarious at the minute because this circuit board needs to pop up on the left hand side a bit more. was at this point he knew. Get up there, you buck. Right, that's that one. If I can squeeze this, put it under a bit of tension, might make life a little bit easier. Right, let's test that. There we go, so that's off. And that's on, so this one should be dead. Yep. And then right, sorted. Let's put this back together. This holds the switch in place. Battery. And then this end. That's on, I can smell it. Unless you know it works. Yeah, it stinks. Right, I'll just put these clips on to stop me from knocking that. All these cable ties really. It's just to hold this lid on. They're not on tight, but it just stops it from moving around. Whether it would or not, I don't know. But belt and braces and all that. As you can see, it's really slick to put on. Right, that's that. I mean, these are only cheap, so it's not a massive shock that it's kind of failed, or not failed, but perhaps up to the normal usual height. It's not a high quality item, but however, being able to put the batteries in a little box out of the way is quite handy on this. It's just sort of one less thing to hold on to. But before we see this in action, if you could do me a favour, if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe, as that really helps me grow the channel. But let's see what this can do. At the moment, that's cold. If I do this real time, and I've found that sometimes when it gets hot, the wire sags a little bit, so I tend to end up holding it kind of like this. I can just open these up a bit with my fingers just by pushing down a bit. It depends what sort of cut you want, really. If you're not bothered about it being a little bit wafty, if that cable bend, it's not an issue, but yeah, that should be cutting now. So if we try this, that end, see, simple. You can kind of hear it. If I put this here, it does stink. So what I normally do is I'll let it run for a little while after I finish cutting before I turn it off. It just burns off any muck that's left, and it does a pretty reasonable cut. But I'll tell you one thing, it's a lot easier than using a Stanley knife or a razor blade. So there we go, that's my cheap DIY hot knife. If you need to do some polystyrene cutting or whatever, give it a go. I'll see you on the next one.